friends. Welcome to Foggy Oak Fairy Tales, a stories podcast for all ages, where we tell farm stories from real-life happenings on Foggy Oak Farm, as well as fantasy tales to spark both learning and imagination. I'm so glad you're here. Hi, friends. This week's episode is about my recent trip to Ohio to experience the totality of the 2024 solar eclipse, a fantastical celestial event that I hope everyone will have the chance to experience at least once in their lifetime. On April 8th, we had the pleasure of attending my cousin's wedding in Ohio. Now, this would be a special enough event on its own, but it so happened that her family farm happened to be located smack dab in the middle of the totality for the 2024 solar eclipse. As you may know from all the recent eclipse coverage in the news, the totality of an eclipse happens when you are in the center of the moon's shadow and your view of the sun is completely blocked by the moon. Total solar eclipses are not exactly a rarity when viewed from a macro perspective. They happen about once every 18 months from some place on the Earth's surface. But the Earth is a big place, and that means your chances of the totality hitting precisely where you are located are low. The average of a totality occurring in your location is over 530 years. In other words, if there was a total solar eclipse where I live in Virginia, there might not be another one precisely where I live for over 500 years. Now, averages can be misleading. Some places get them more frequently, like every 100 years or so. But that means that some get them way less frequently, like every 1,000 years. It's a lot to wrap your head around, but you can start to see why people get excited when the totality of an eclipse happens to hit where they live. To take advantage of this rare convergence, my cousin and her partner decided to have their wedding on the farm just before the totality so that everyone could experience a once-in-a-lifetime event during their once-in-a-lifetime event. I figured the eclipse would be a neat experience, but I was more excited to celebrate my cousin and see my family. The eclipse, I thought, was just a somewhat noteworthy bonus. I was unprepared for how very singular of an experience it was. You see, it's not just the rarity that makes experiencing a totality special. The things that happen during the totality of an eclipse are really quite marvelous in their own right. April's totality was only 115 miles wide, and the totality itself was almost a blink, as short as under 3 minutes for some and just about 4.5 for others. Yet in this brief span of time, many different events occur, all of which offer something special to the person experiencing it. Since there are so many things that happen, I'll just focus on the ones we experienced ourselves. First, and helpfully, clouds may vanish. You want as clear of a sky as possible to watch the eclipse. Remember, only looking at it using special eclipse glasses to protect your eyes. And it appears that the eclipse can influence this, reducing some types of cloud cover significantly during the event. Then, you may notice animals starting to behave strangely. Birds may begin singing their bedtime songs or flying home to their normal roosting spot. Cicadas and crickets may begin chirping like they would at dusk. Sometimes spiders tear down their webs. You may notice all kinds of interesting animal behavior. For these first two, I'll say that we had pretty clear skies leading up to the eclipse, only some scattered clouds. And they did indeed disperse as we reached totality. We had a totally unobstructed view as the sun was gradually and then completely covered by the moon. Just a few clouds remained in very obliging positions so as not to block the event. The only animal things I noticed were some birds starting to fly home to roost, and some dogs began barking. Though, to be fair, that may not have been eclipse related. It was a wedding with lots of people, after all. But I definitely noticed this next one, which is something called the Purkinje effect. You perceive colors differently during an eclipse. Colors like red and orange are usually bright and vibrant during the day, especially when compared to greens and blues. But when the light changes, you'll start to notice that darker colors become more pronounced and vibrant, while the normally vibrant reds and oranges seem to fade. This effect is more noticeable during a total eclipse because there is a very rapid change in light levels. I was wearing a jacket with flowers printed all over it in many colors, and I definitely, and to my surprise, watched this happen in real time. The greens and blues began to pop, while the reds and pinks and oranges of the other flowers on my shirt dimmed. It was very cool. As all of this was happening, you could look up through your eclipse glasses and clearly see the sun gradually become covered by the moon. Again, without your glasses, it's a bad idea to look directly at an eclipse. Even though the light may be dimming, you don't realize how hard it is on your eyes. And you can't actually see the sun being covered up without the help of eclipse glasses until you get to the totality anyway. It's through the filter of the dark lens of the eclipse glasses that the progression of the moon covering the sun becomes clear. At first, just a sliver is covered, the barest hint that something amazing was beginning. Even though the whole event was only about 2.5 hours, it seemed like the progress was infinitesimal at first. Until, that is, we neared the totality, and many things happened at once. As the totality approaches, the temperature rapidly falls. For us, the hot, sunny day transformed to almost chilly. And slowly, inexorably, we watched through our glasses as the moon completely covered the sun. When it did, the corona, or hot outer atmosphere of the sun, appeared, a shining, spiky ring burning around the black circle of the moon. The light around us had been dimming, transitioning first to a strange, washed-out light, and then to full dusk over the course of moments. Around us, solar lights and dusk-to-dawn light bulbs flickered on in the gathering darkness. During the totality, it is safe to remove your glasses and look at the full eclipse, though you should wait for a grown-up to tell you it's safe. When we took off our glasses to take it in, we were met with my favorite part of the eclipse, a 360-degree sunset. This was not your typical, albeit beautiful, sunset in the western sky. The horizon was ablaze all around us, stretching from a deep and fiery orange all the way to pale pink, which blended with the white of the few remaining clouds and the darker blue of the twilight sky. I spun slowly in a circle over and over again to take it in, and as I did so, planets blinked brightly into the sky. Venus and Jupiter burned proudly above the universal sunset, more vividly than I have ever seen them. This is a unique aspect of totality for many viewers. And then, after about 3 minutes and 46 seconds, the world began to brighten. The sunset dimmed and faded away. The temperature rose. The colors shifted back to normal. The solar lights blinked off as the sun returned. And we put our glasses back on to watch the sun uncover once again. It was over too soon, but the awe I felt has lasted. I understand why folks will travel far and wide to chase eclipse totalities, and I hope I'll have the chance to experience at least one more in my lifetime. However, I admit I can't think of any future eclipse that could top this one. On a family farm, after a wedding, during a reunion, in the totality, to experience a rare and wondrous event surrounded by the people I love. The end. Remember, you're part of the story too. What did you think of this story? What did you imagine when you were listening? We'd love to hear your part of the story. If you and your grown-up want, you can share your thoughts or a picture you drew with our Foggy Oak podcast family. You might find it easiest to share with us on Facebook at Foggy Oak Farm, but we have lots of options on our website, foggyoakfairytales.com. You can also check out pictures from the farm and learn more about us. Thanks for being part of the story, and I hope you'll join us next week.